Hello, I'm Simon Whistler, you're watching TopTenzNet, and in the video today we're looking at the top 10 countries where you can legally get high. In 1936, the film Reefer Madness depicted the terrible consequences of just a single toke of marijuana. It of course results in a psychotic rampage that only can end in murder, suicide, or lifelong incarceration. Well, we better be ready for a whole lot of killer sex rampages in the next future because pot is starting to become big business. Multiple states and countries are relaxing their anti-weed laws, and 4 a.m. pizza orders, well, they're about to hit an all-time high. But even as the heavy fog of prohibition lifts on the green fog of legalization, pot is still a niche pursuit. Draconian laws means it's still painfully illegal in many parts of the world, and very few nations tolerate it the way they do alcohol. So where can you legally hold that Big Lebowski smoke-along you've been planning? Well, try any of the following 10 countries. Number 10. India in some states. If you thought Rastafarians like to spend their spare time getting baked, you should check out some branches of Hinduism. In parts of India, cannabis is considered a gift from Lord Shiva, who supposedly once chilled out after a family argument by eating a ton of the stuff. As a result, various forms of getting high have been around for centuries. The most popular of these is probably bhang, which is where the leaves are turned into a milkshake. And this is probably the best or worst idea that anyone has ever had for a McDonald's product. Thanks to its religious connotations, bhang has long been tolerated in parts of India, even during the darkest days of global prohibition. But some states haven't just stopped at bhang. In cities like Varanasi, cannabis is effectively decriminalized. You can buy ganja in state-sponsored shops, and in one state a politician even took to Twitter to explain how to score some. Weed also recently became totally legal in Goa. Despite this, cannabis remains illegal at the federal level in India, although Sad Pathy and other green-fingered politicians are hoping to change this. Number 9. Australia, some states and territories. The guys down under have been at the forefront of medical marijuana since a mass legalization of cultivating weed came through in 2016. However, this article is about personal use, and the new law specifically didn't give any Tom, Dick, or Sheila the ability to start growing it in their backyard. But fear not, lovable Aussie stoners, while pot may very well be illegal, it has been decriminalized in 3 areas, specifically South Australia, Australia Capital Territory, and the Northern Territory. This might not sound like much, but when you consider Australia only has 6 states and 2 territories, it starts to look pretty impressive. And thanks to the distribution of Australia's various regions, it effectively means there's a big fat line right down the middle of the country, stretching for thousands of miles, where it's totally cool to get baked. In some cases, decriminalization goes up to some fairly hefty amounts. South Australia considers it non-criminal to be caught with up to 100 grams of pot. The Northern and Capital Territories let you keep 2 non-hydroponic plants per person. Number 8. The United States. Some states. 8 states out of 50. That's where the legalization of recreational marijuana stands in the good old USA, plus Washington, D.C. Pretty much all of these have come to pass because voters get a say on these issues and have plumped to put pot on a level with alcohol. But that doesn't mean the state legislators are on board with it. In some states, the legal pot crusade is still being played out after legalization has supposedly happened. Massachusetts is a good example of this. After weed became legal in December of 2016, plans were put in place to install a regulatory framework by January of 2018. But GOP lawmakers, well, they nixed it, and now summer of 2018 will probably see the first pot dispensaries open. Meanwhile, in Oregon, cannabis laws are left up to local government. That means that what's legal on the coast is often super illegal out in mountain country. Nonetheless, the US is still teetering towards full legalization. Colorado, California, Washington State all have recreational dispensaries, while Nevada is working on making pot into a pastime to rival their other institutionalized vices of gambling and prostitution. Number 7. The Czech Republic. A quick dip into the Library of Congress website tells us that the Czech Republic, also known as Czechia to people who love terrible names, is the only former Soviet country to have reduced the Eastern Bloc's harsh drug penalties. And they haven't been reduced slightly either. Since its mutual divorce from Slovakia in 1993, the Czech Republic has had fairly liberal pot laws. In 2010, they liberalized even further. Fast forward to today, and getting high is so routine that many barmen in Prague will happily sell you some chronic along with your beer. Now, before you go gallivanting off to Bohemia or indeed Moravia, a quick reality check. Marijuana is still illegal in the Czech Republic, with only small amounts for personal use being decriminalized. Since the law doesn't specify what a small amount is, though, so it's up to cops, bouncers, and courts to decide on a case-by-case basis. Luckily, everyone seems to have decided that that's code for sensible amounts for personal use, provided the stoner in question isn't being a total jerk with it and annoying everybody. Number 6. The Netherlands. Here's something you might not know about pot and the Netherlands. Actually, two somethings. One is that weed is totally illegal over there. The other is that coffee shops are legally required to only sell to Dutch citizens. But wait, we hear you cry. You might be saying, yeah, listen man, my bro Chester, he got totally baked in Amsterdam last spring, yo. Well, for that, he should seriously be thanking Eberhard van der Laan, mayor of Amsterdam. It was this man's spat with the government that led to implementing the citizenship requirement being made optional. Amsterdam, predictably, well, they chose not to enforce it. The upshot is that getting high is de facto legal for the Dutch in the whole country and legal for tourists in Amsterdam. Stray outside of the capital with only your American or British passport though, and you'll need official papers to purchase the herb. Papers you probably don't stand a cat's chance in heck of getting. Not that this is a big problem for the vast majority of visitors though. Every year Amsterdam receives over 1.5 million cannabis tourists, equivalent to over half the city's metro population. Most of them barely leave their favorite coffee shop, never mind leaving the city. Number 5. Germany. Talk about doing the right thing for the wrong reasons. While Germany started 2017 by legalizing medical marijuana and paving the way for weed sales in pharmacies, it still considers pot illegal, and transporting or distributing it can see you hit with a fine or even a prison sentence. So what on God's green earth is it doing all the way down here at number 5? Well, there's an interesting answer to that one. You see, weed may still be illegal in Germany, but consumption of it isn't. The reason? Well, Germany considers smoking or eating cannabis to be an act of monumental self-harm. And since German law doesn't legislate against acts of self-harm, that means smoking dope is no more illegal and far more pleasant than slashing your arms while listening to Joy Division. The actual amounts considered to come under personal use vary wildly by state. The average is 6 grams, but Berlin will let you get away with carrying a rather hefty 15 grams. For those who are caught with higher amounts, the courts generally focus on rehabilitation and treatment rather than custodial sentences. Number 4. South Africa. Ask most Americans to name the greatest government document ever produced, and they'll probably answer the US Constitution. For a small number of stateside potheads, though, the South African Constitution may well hold more allure. That's because in 2017, the Western Cape High Court ruled that making marijuana illegal was unconstitutional. Their ruling effectively legalized cannabis for personal use within the home. But don't go racing to Pretoria with your bong in tow just yet. The ruling came in March 2017. As a result, things are moving at a lightning-fast pace and may yet change once again. For one, the High Court could be overturned by the Constitutional Court, and for another, the High Court ruling gave the government a 2-year grace period to rewrite the statutes, a period of time in which the old laws technically still apply. Finally, on July 31st, a prosecution case against a weed-smoking couple started, during which the judge is expected to rule on the legality of marijuana prohibition. Things may well be looking up for South African herb smokers, or the tide may yet again turn in prohibition's favor. Number 3. Spain. Spain is less a country than it is a collection of autonomous provinces, at least 2 of which actively want to be out of even this loose collaboration. Still, there are some things that all 17 regions agree on, one of which is the pressing need to do absolutely nothing about their citizens getting high. Growing small amounts, smoking in private and selling cannabis seeds are all legal in every single region. On top of that, most regions also allow cannabis clubs where members presumably don velvet smoking jackets, then proceed to blaze the ever-loving god out of their pooled supply. But there's one region where this super hands-off approach is considered the height of nanny state intervention. Catalonia, the region of which Barcelona is the capital, officially legalized pot completely on June 30th, 2017, although anyone wanting to get high will still need to prove they're a member of a cannabis club, a move effectively meant to discourage Amsterdam-style cannabis tourism. Of course, this is assuming Spain's constitutional court doesn't strike Catalonia's full legalization down. Number 2. Colombia. When many Americans hear the word Colombia, they immediately think of 3 things: violence, Escobar, and drugs. While Pablo Escobar may be long dead, the other 2 are very much still a part of Colombian society. But in the case of drugs, maybe not in the way you're thinking. After a 2012 vote in Congress, Colombia completely decriminalized growing, buying, and smoking marijuana. Further, you can't be prosecuted for carrying over 22 grams, provided you can reasonably prove it's for your own personal use. Whoever the Colombian Cheech and Chong are, we're guessing they're still celebrating. It's not just decriminalization where Colombia has embraced the plant either. The government has been investing heavily in medical marijuana since 2016. Rather than set up new cannabis fields to satisfy demands, they've just started buying pot off the peasants who used to sell it to the recently disarmed drug-peddling Marxist rebel group FARC. There's even a group of vocal senators who want to completely legalize pot in the same way as alcohol, but no country would ever go that far, right? Number 1. Uruguay. This is it, the only country on Earth where pot is completely legal in every region, where there are no penalties for possession or cultivation or buying, and where the state itself has started growing and selling its own varieties of weed. Yep, Uruguay is the heaven that all good stoners go to when they die. It's a tiny Latin American nation around the size of Florida, where the food is good, the living standards are high, and the cannabis flows freely. You can smoke in public, buy grass over the counter, and the government, well, they're your dealer. The story of how Uruguay got here is the stuff of legend. In 2011, police raided the apartment of a 66-year-old grandma called Alicia Castilla. They confiscated her cannabis plants and threw her in prison. The idea of locking up a granny over something as harmless as pot shocked Uruguayan society, sparking protests, petitions, and outrage in the press. The government responded by totally legalizing cannabis in 2014. Castilla was released, the case against her was dropped, by 2017 the government was selling pot. For the visiting tourist, though, it's actually harder to get legally high in the country than it is in Amsterdam. This is because Uruguay currently only sells to Uruguayan citizens who have registered with the government, so maybe don't cancel those flights to Holland just yet. So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please do hit that thumbs up button below, and don't forget to subscribe for brand new videos just like this every day of the week. Also over there on the right, a couple of other videos that you might enjoy if you enjoyed this one, and thank you for watching.